What's the dumbest thing you've accidentally said while trying to say two things at once? Got a notification at a drive-thru that it was my friend's birthday and ended up telling the person happy birthday instead of my order. Birthday or not, you probably made that person's day. I was trying to say no problem to a customer on the phone and I accidentally said no real enthusiastically and hung up. Oops. I'm just imagining someone yelling nope into a phone, slamming it down with a huge smile on their face, then just staring off into space with a big dumb smile on their face as they realize what they've done. I tripped going upstairs at my university. Several people came over to make sure I was okay. I'm fine. Just my shins and my ego bruised. So I was trying to make light of it by joking walking is hard and stairs are tricky at the same time. But I just ended up squawking stairs hard in a girl's face before I ran off. Sigh. Why use many word when few word do trick? My buddy did something and instead of saying my boy did blah blah or my friend did blah blah I said my boyfriend. I was taking to my girlfriend and she often asks me how my boyfriends are doing now. I deliver pizzas and I usually deliver in the evenings. So I always tell people, have a great night. One day, I got switched to day shift, and after my first delivery, my brain tried to say, have a great night and have a good day at the same time, and it somehow came out, have a gay Davey. This made me snort in the employee lounge. I said hi to a cashier at McDonald's when going to say hi and then mid-sentence changing my mind and saying hello. My parrot knows how to say hi and hello, and sometimes he mashes them up and says hi LLO. My mom was cutting a cake at my cousin's birthday party. I was trying to ask her can I have a tiny piece and can I have an itty bitty piece and it came out as can I have a titty. Someone call Freud. This one happened to a coworker. We worked at an ice cream parlor. I came in early because the delivery guy was going to show up with more ice cream, and I had to help unload it. My coworker was supposed to be there too to run the front and serve coffee while I dealt with the delivery. She was late, however, which left me in a bad situation because I couldn't do both. I called the manager to let him know, and he said he'd call back in half an hour and if she wasn't there he'd come in himself. Luckily, she showed up, followed immediately by the ice cream. I went back to handle the delivery and the phone rang. I called out that's Rob. Tell him you're here and so is the ice cream. She picked up the phone and cheerfully said hi. I'm a screamer. I would pay $50 to have seen his face. I'm a semi-bilingual Canadian, and some things just sound better in French than in English. Heck, some things just sound better in a horrible Fringlish mix. Favorite being worst sec the frick. This means that, sometimes, I will greet people with a hello, how's it going and, sometimes, with a bonjour, ça va, and sometimes, some special times, my brain apparently decides to do both things at once and produces a very special compound word, typically ejaculated at high volume to people on first meeting. Bonjour. I'm also French-English bilingual, British French, and I often mix up my languages when I'm switching a lot. I am stealing bonjour. My friend was absolutely trouncing us in a custom game of Halo 3. He wanted to say I'm wiping the floor with you guys and I'm kicking your asses. Instead he came out with I am wiping your asses. Colder saved it if he just added with the floor on the end. Oh god, my friend was at a cafe with her mom talking about the film A Star Is Born and a woman came in with a border collie dog. My friend very enthusiastically asked if that was a Bradley Cooper. That is so cute. I was leaving after the second date with my now husband, talking with him through the open door of my car. Stomach was still all fluttery. I was trying to sound like a normal human being, inviting him to message me about a day that would be good for us to meet again. Meant to say either, hit me up, or, shoot me a message. Ended up with, shoot me up, crap, 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 crap. Smiled stupidly and drove away, hoping he didn't notice. He noticed, but he went out with me again anyway. We'll be celebrating our 1-year wedding anniversary in February. Pumped up kicks intensifies. Not really two things, but my mother one asked a shop assistant if they had any McLean's toothpaste. Supposed to say McLean's toothpaste. That reminds me of Mootball feet long. Was at work in a status meeting with co-workers. I wanted to say that I was going to either bug or bother a client about something. Ended up saying I'll bugger them, and it turns out bugger means something very different. Indeed it does. I used to manage a restaurant where I would commonly greet customers then take them to their table with a follow me or come inside. One day I slipped up with a come inside me. You ruined the roleplay. I was at an event with a lot of guests who only spoke English. I'm French, so I spent the day juggling between the two languages. At the end of the day, it started raining pretty hard. Now, in English, the expression is it rains cats and dogs. In French, the expression literally means it rains like a cow who is peeing. I somehow mix up both of them, and I said to a lot of Englishmen and women it rains cows. They seemed a bit worried. I know uses that exclusively, both in English and French. Honestly, if you said it's raining cows then most people would get what you meant. They'd probably laugh but they'd get you mean it's raining hard. I was having an argument with a close friend of mine over something that has been lost to time, probably about something nerdy. This was back in high school, but all I remember is wanting to yell you want to fight me and frick you, which ultimately came out as you want to frick me. My friend quickly went pale, evaluated his options as I raced to correct myself, and promptly left my house. Guess I won that argument. We didn't frick till years later though, lol. What a twist. That username though. BTW. Teaching The Hobbit to 8th graders. Trying to lead discussion on one of the earlier chapters, when the dwarfs make a mess of Bag End. Meant to talk about Bilbo's dishes. Ended up saying dildos B to my class of middle schoolers. Out of all the words you could have swapped, you were unlucky enough to get the two that would make one of the most inappropriate phrases to say as a teacher. I'm sure your students won't forget that. I work in a contact center. One day a customer called regarding an order, nothing major, and at the end of the call he thanked me. My standard response is no worries, but for some reason my brain also wanted to say you're welcome. It came out as, your problem, and I kinda wanted to die in that moment. I'd like to thank you for all that you've done, sir. That's your problem and I'd like it to stay that way. This is gonna sound weird on its own, but I was trying to say Barney and puberty in the same sentence and said barbity. Yeah, I want context behind this. My friend was being a butthole, so I was going to say I'll beat yo butt and stop being a dong. It came out as I'll beat yo dong. I now wish I wasn't alive. I attempted to call someone boo boo and baby at the same time and ended calling him booby. I can never go back to that McDonald's. Okay, but why were you calling a McDonald's employee either of those names? It was early in the morning and I had basically just peeled myself from bed, and as I was leaving the house my stepmom said goodbye to me. Me being on complete autopilot replied with a sleepy yee-haw, then went on with my day. I'm not even American, so I deck why I said it. I had to come home that day and explain that I was just tired and didn't mean to say yee-haw. I said to my uncle once frick you instead of thank you. I wasn't trying to say two things though. I was just a stupid kid with poor English trying to speak to an uncle who is living in the US in English. For some reason as a kid they sounded very similar to me. They are interchangeable in many parts of America. A dear friend of mine is an author. Anytime he puts out a new book, he always signs a copy for me to display in my classroom. We had been out drinking one night and he, in his drunken state, got really lippy and was about to get his butt kicked. I stepped in and defended him, getting decently injured in the process. As we were driving home, he slurred out, "Thanks for shaving my butt, man," instead of "Thanks for saving my butt, man." A few weeks later, I got a copy of his new book that had his slur inscribed. I keep the book in my classroom, and occasionally, a student will pick it up and read the inscription. When they ask about it, I just smile and tell them I'll tell them the story when they graduate. Has anyone graduated and asked then yet? I was on high school academic team. I rang in to answer a question, intending to say either groundhog or woodchuck. I ended up saying ground chuck. That was not the answer. I was talking to one of my co-workers and I was trying to say I'm going to go poop, and we were talking about how ready we were to go eat lunch, and what came out was I'm going to go eat poop now. playing online with friends, I replied to something cool that happened with a combination of cool and sweet, which got me. Wow. Queet, it lives on to this day. Queet is so fetch. I was out with my friend, and the weather was pretty. Camping weather. She looked at me and said with emphatic certainty we should pinch a tit. I was visibly confused and said I was good. My tea were fine where they were. She wanted to pitch a tent, not pinch a tit. I was the only kid at an adult party with my mother and stepdad. BBQ and sports patio party. I was asked by the group of adults which team I liked more, Cubs or Sox. The party becomes divided, chanting for me to pick either one or the other. In a frantic attempt to appease both groups, I frantically yelled, "I like Cox." You could hear a pin drop. I dropped my head and went outside. "I like subs" wouldn't have been much better. Happened a day ago. Me and a friend were talking about a test, and she worried she was going to get a bad grade. I wanted to say, "I'm sure you'll get a good grade," and "I'm sure you won't get a bad grade." So I ended up saying, "I'm sure you'll get a bad grade. Happy Thanksgiving, you freaking failure." Took a while to brake while approaching a red light. My friend in the backseat tried to say "watch out" and "oh crap," but ended up saying "whooshy whooshy whooshy." That one actually cracked me up so hard. RIT fricked me while I was trying to yell. That fricking scared me, and trying to censor myself and just yell it scared me. I once handed someone a bowl of soup, and the words "careful, it's hot and it's tomato soup" got crushed together into "careful, it's soup." Well yes, but actually no. One time I was in class and we got super off track and were talking about clowns for some reason. My friend said he hated clowns. I meant to say that's because clowns freaking suck, and I ended up saying that's because clowns sucking frick. I was at work at my retail job and this old couple came in while I was standing alone at my register by the door. The woman turns to me and says, "Can I ask you a question?" I start to say "go ahead" when my brain decides to switch to "ask away." Out of my mouth comes, "go away." I once mixed up the words rapist and racist and accidentally called my uncle a rapist at a family dinner after he made an off-color joke. It wasn't a mix-up. OMG, my time to shine. I was in the army at the time and doing a guarding shift at the base's back entrance. Theirs was this rule that if a high-ranking officer came through you had to salute them, which no one ever cared about, even the officers. So one day the super high-ranking officer drives in, don't know the name of his rank, and English came through. I take his ID to look at it, then back at him, then I realized who he was. So I saluted with his ID in my hand, the wrong hand as well, and said a combination of the words "thank you" and "good morning," which turned out something like this "munchaya," but in my language, so it was even funnier. I don't think he noticed, so all good. I was super embarrassed though. It was summer and it was hot as heck. I was out walking in the street with my friends. I tried to said the sun is in the top and hey, let's put sun cream so we don't get burned, but my crush looked at me at that moment, so I said, "Hey, let's burn the sun. Let's set fire to the sun." Earlier today, was attempting to emphasize how much I endorsed a particular burrito filling to a colleague and inadvertently portmanteaued frick and recommend 10/10 word for comment again. Hahaha, you made me laugh. I was once carrying some food to some tables for Thanksgiving, and my brother asked what's in the bowls and my dad asked how was your day, so I just shuffled over while saying my day was gravy. If it makes you feel any better, all gravy is slang for all good, so technically you were right, assuming you had actually had a good day. 3 quick stories. 1. In elementary school, in class, I once called my teacher mommy, not mom or mother, but mommy. But 2. I also, more than once, ended the Pledge of Allegiance with amen. 3 years later, when I was in the military, I was on a field exercise where we had a chow tent rather than a dining hall. This was in Alaska and at night it got really cold. Now, I am not a fan of hot beverages, because I have been scalded by hot coffee more than once, and I have decided I don't like the taste of burnt tongue. As a substitute, I thought I would drain off the fluid from the pan of peas that were being replaced on the serving line table. It happens that peas are my favorite vegetable, and I had heard that most of the nutritional value of canned vegetables is in the fluid in the can more so than the vegetables themselves. So I thought, warm beverage that tastes good and has nutritional values. So I poured the fluid into my canteen cup and sipped it. Nirvana. That stuff was fantastic. I couldn't help moaning in delight. A friend heard me vocally relishing the stuff and looked at it, but it was easy to see that the greenish beverage was not coffee, so he asked what I was drinking. I replied. I have no idea why I stopped there. I'm really glad I read this far down because I'm laughing out loud. I used to have a co-worker who spoonerized the beginnings of words all the time in conversation with customers. My favorite was the time a customer asked him what flavor soup we had that day. Ah yes, today's soup is morget and mushroom. I cannot for the life of me ever pronounce fruit flies correctly the first time. It always comes out as flute fries. Always. Fortunately, I rarely have to say it. A friend of mine once tried to say eject, evacuate, yet ended up with ejaculate. I freaking love when crap in KSP goes haywire. And then when you crash, well, let's just say it happened to me a lot. Came home after a HR day of 5th grade. I decided I wanted a snack. Do note that day at school me and the boy were for some reason talking about dongs. This, combined with the fact that I was hungry, made my brain combine the two thoughts to make the sentence. I'm so hungry I could eat a dong. I am a straight male. My mom was in the other room and to this day I DK if she heard me. I was playing Mario Kart with my dad and little sister, and as I was passing one of them, I meant to say either get out of my way or get away from me, but I ended up saying get out of me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.